Gotta get more followers.
Hello everyone, it's the Canadian Futures Trader here. Welcome to the video. Today's video, going to be talking about the top 5 tips to pass your funded futures trader evaluation as told by a funded trader. If you're not familiar with me, I'm going to talk a little bit about my background in a second, but pass several of these funded futures programs and like to help people out any way I can to hopefully pass your evaluations. So my background, I started trading in 2020, so really just about 3 years now. Before I jumped in and started trading in futures, I spent several months just researching futures trading, the various futures trader programs, and then different trading methodology, figuring out how do you trade, like what do you look for. I started out with a few of the programs. I started this YouTube channel in late 2020. I basically wanted to start documenting my evaluation process through a few of the programs. And then I started getting a lot of questions, so I started a website. Go figure. In early 2021, CanadianFuturesTrader.ca, and there's a link down below. My website, which really just started off as kind of a general hobby, just to put up some general information, really has turned into a world of its own and created this personality known as the Canadian Futures Trader. So I keep it updated now with the deals and discounts on all the trader evaluations, as well as full reviews. I have tons of articles and lots more on there as well. So as well, on top of that, I launched a free trading course in late 2021. It's on my website. It's focused a little bit more on the treasuries. That's what I trade. I'll say it up front as well. I'm not selling anything. I don't have anything to sell. There's nowhere on my website to send me any money. Looking to just put out hopefully educational and useful information to traders. I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. Coming up, there just wasn't as a lot of information about futures trading or good quality information. So as I figure things out, that's when I start to document it, make more videos, put up stuff on my website, and share with other traders to hopefully make their journey a little bit easier. So as I record this kind of late 2022, I passed evaluations with just a multitude of the trader evaluation companies, in excess of 1 million in funding. It has gone fantastic, but we'll talk more about all of that coming up. Let's get to it. So before we start, trading is not easy. I don't want you to take anything that I say in this video or any video I make to give the impression that trading futures or trading anything is easy. Reality is most people do fail, or they at least take a few lumps before they kind of gain some traction. You can read the full disclaimer about how risky trading is and everything in the video description, as well on my website. I have all that information. I do kind of think of futures trading as something that, besides it being difficult, if you can kind of rein in your emotions, and I mean that's what we're going to kind of go through in this video, is how to pass these evaluations. My tips for you. There's a ton of potential and opportunity there if you're willing to kind of take the opportunity. So I recommend you don't get caught up in other people's journey. I see this happening like more and more, where you get some people who are passing and having success. Even myself, and then others look to that and then they are discouraged because maybe they're not doing as well, or they fail in evaluation or whatever. You can't really judge yourself against others. Like, we're each on our own journey, and I started, my first year was a train wreck. I did not do well my first year. I failed a lot of evaluations. It took me a while to get my footing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and what I recommend there, but just don't get caught up in other people's journeys. You'll get there on your own as well. I want to encourage people as well to keep in mind, just because you sign up for any given evaluation, you're not entitled to pass. I see that as well quite a bit, where I get the impression that people feel like, they signed up, they traded their system, they failed because they broke a rule, but it's the company's fault. It's not the trader's fault. And that's just not true. You're not entitled to pass just because, you have some trading system and because you signed up. You have to demonstrate that you have the skills to pass the evaluation. Also encourage people to do a lot of prep work up front. It goes a long way. Read the rules. Number one, if you're going to do anything, just read the rules of the evaluations before you go ahead and sign up. Easily found on any of the company's website. All in all, they're going to be similar across all the companies. But when you get into the details, each company has their own, kind of unique rules. Some might have a trailing drawdown, some have an end of day drawdown, some you have to scale, some you don't. Just two quick examples. So read all the rules up front, invest the time up front. There's no rush, even if you spend a week just getting to know all the programs and picking and reading the rules, then sign up. That's better than just jumping in and trying to fire away. So consider these a few tips before we get to the real tips. You got a few going into it. So tip number one, find your product that you want to trade and what your trading plan is going to be. So the cool thing with futures is there's a pretty long list of products you can trade. There's even a longer list of strategies you could use, methods you could use to trade. Figure out in advance what it is that you want to trade, both in terms of product and what your strategy is going to be. What are you going to use to enter a trade? What are you going to use to exit a trade? When's the right time to take profit? A lot of that stuff, you might not be the master of it, especially if you're a newer trader going into one of these evaluations, but at least have some concept. I recommend you don't sign up and then figure this stuff out, because you're probably going to pay the price in terms of blowing evaluations because you're just jumping into stuff that you don't quite know what you're doing. You could test these things out on simulator in advance. And I encourage you to become an expert, the best that you can, at whatever you do. I don't expect someone who's a brand new trader to become a pro at trading, the U.S. Treasuries, what I trade, overnight. But, whatever you take an interest in, do whatever you can to learn the most about it that you can, how it works, watch the, the flow, watch the charts, whatever it is that you do, try to get really good at it. So I wrote, at the bottom, I only trade the U.S. Treasuries. I only use order flow. On top of that, I only trade 4 hours a day. I trade 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So for me, that's kind of my sweet spot. That's what I've mastered. If I was to go try and trade, crude oil, what I've mastered isn't going to apply really whatsoever. So I encourage newer traders to find one specific thing and really try to master it, then jump around and try a bunch of different stuff. So tip number two, just ease in and spread out the trading. So, all these trader evaluations have a minimum number of days you need to trade. It's kind of point number two there. A lot of people just jump in though, and they're like, I'm going to pass this in one day, and then I'll just, coast the rest of it. So say it's a 10-day evaluation. They try to pass, meet the goal on day one. And then the remaining 9 days, they just pop in and out for one quick trade, just so it counts as a trading day. So I encourage people to trade like you would in the real world. That might work to try and pass in one day to kind of game the system and pass the evaluation. But the reality is that, once you're funded, or if you were, heaven forbid, trading your own money in the future, would you just try to make a bunch of money one day and then do nothing for 2 weeks? No, you would trade every day. So I encourage you to trade how you see yourself trading in the real world. On top of that, if you're brand new to trader evaluations, I would say slow it down the first few days. Feel it out. Just get used to logging in, seeing the system, setting up your charts, watching, whatever it is you choose to trade. Say it's crude oil or one of the equity indices or, treasuries, whatever it might be. Just watch it, feel it out, or maybe take a small trade just to get a sense of what it's like. There's no rush. And I should mention, when there's a minimum, say of 10 days, that's the minimum. You can take longer than 10 days. You don't have to worry. There is no rush, and there's no benefit as well of reaching the goal faster than 10 days. Certainly if you reach it and say day number 6, you hit your profit goal, fantastic. That's great. But you don't have to strive to do that. And as well, there's no style points. There's no benefit, to that. You don't get a better account or anything like that. So my third tip is just don't press the limits. So all evaluations are going to have, risk limits there, whether it's a trailing drawdown or a daily loss limit, possibly both. And I'm not going to get into those. If you don't even know what those are, I encourage you to maybe check out my website or check out some other videos I've made and learn more about trailing drawdowns and daily loss limits. You're really going to want to understand those. But nonetheless, different evaluations, different rules surrounding those. You don't want to bring your account right to the limit because you've really backed yourself into a corner. If your trailing drawdown is 2,500 and you bring it all the way down to 2,400 and then you're sitting there and you don't have a trade on, well, you really don't have much room. Your next trade really has to be a winner, or now you're just you're right on the cusp there of blowing your account. So don't get to the cusp of blowing your account. Trailing drawdowns especially, since you'll be contending with it just ongoing. A daily loss limit, say it's $2,000 and you lose, $1,900 on a Monday. Just stop trading, wait till the next day, and then that trailing drawdown, or sorry, that daily loss limit now has been reset to an additional 2,000. But you're still going to have to contend with any type of end of day drawdowns or trailing drawdowns. So the punchline is just don't get too close to those. On top of having to deal with being that close to the drawdown, you might just break the rule unintentionally. You forgot about commissions, and commissions add up, and you thought you still had $100 buffer, but it turns out you did so many trades that your commissions put you over. Or slippage. Let's say you set your stop loss with $100 buffer, or whatever it is, $200 buffer before you break a rule. But then the market just flies out of control your direction, and there's slippage, meaning you don't get filled at the price you wanted, you get filled at a worse price. That might be enough to break a rule. And, this isn't something that is your fault. You managed to get yourself into this position, and that's a very real world dynamic that does happen. So don't put yourself in that position. So you're really asking yourself to break a rule by coming close. So try to steer well clear of any of those drawdowns. So number 4, don't expect just a straight line in terms of profit. Trading isn't a job where you get paid every single day. In fact, plenty of days where you lose money. You have to get really comfortable with losing money, both in an individual trade and on a day as a whole, and maybe even a week or a month. So the same thing goes with your valuation. You probably will have losing days. The key is you have to know when to call it quits. Again, you don't want to get it all the way down to within dollars of your trailing drawdown, and then you have to deal with that the next day. You need to know when to just say, you know what, today's really not going my way. I'm going to stop. I'll pick it up tomorrow, and we'll see if the market is working better for me tomorrow. Long-term success comes in knowing when to cut losing trades or cut a losing day quick. And then on the flip side, when you're having a good day or you're having a lot of winning trades, knowing how to kind of press those and keep it going. So it's really about mitigating, the risk and the downside, and then really pressing up on the good side, the winning side. And if you can master that, that's what kind of leads to long-term success. So tip number 5, learn from your mistakes. And you're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I still make mistakes. I have everything kind of mapped out as to how I trade and what products I trade and my trade setups. I still make mistakes, or you get kind of loose sometimes with your own rules, whatever it might be. So always try to hold yourself to a higher standard. We all blow evaluations. Yes, even me, I've blown evaluations. It's no secret. So there's no value in self-pity. I see some people, they get down on themselves, like, oh, I suck at trading. I'm never going to make it. I guess I'll just reset. And then they keep doing the same things they've been doing. That's the wrong path to take. Yes, be bummed, especially if you were deep in an evaluation, you blew it or something like that. But where the real value is that you can't change where you're at. Always remember that. So figure out what you did wrong and stop doing that. That's really, for me, where I turned the corner. I started picking off different things I needed to work on and saying, okay, I keep making the same mistake. At some point, I need to stop this and I need to change it, or I'm just going to keep making that same mistake. So do that. Work on improving, and whatever the mistake of the day is that you made that caused you to break, a rule. Maybe you traded too big. You traded too many contracts and the trade just got out of control on you. Or you did bring it right down to that trailing drawdown. Whatever it is, work on fixing that thing, and all those fixes will add up to success. So, and as I started to say, that's really when I turned the corner, was when I fixed a lot of mistakes I was making. Quickly changes, your position that you're in, and things start to go your way a lot sooner. So, 4th point there, be a student of the market. Always look to improve. Just because, you're good at whatever you do, this is where the other mistake I see people making, they get kind of good at trading and all of a sudden they're super cocky. All of a sudden they're telling other people what they should do and why they're wrong and all this. No, don't. You'll get humbled real quick at some point in the market if you get like that. So always look to improve. Yes, even me. I do not claim to be above or better than anyone. I just have figured out a lot of stuff when it comes to trading. But even myself, I'm always looking to improve and become better at trading. Last point, if you're stubborn, you'll keep getting punished until you smarten up. I already kind of made that point. If you keep, trading too big of a size and getting wiped out because, a trade goes 5 ticks against you, and because you were trading, 30 lots, it just completely killed your account. Well, you're going to have to learn how to fix that. Time to scale down. You might not like it at first, but, if it's a mistake you keep making, you can either be stubborn about it and keep getting punished, or you could start and fix things and then start to see the results go your way. So some final points, own your trading. Only you can get better. Don't, look to others to help fix you or try to jump around or try to mimic someone else's system. You need to figure out what it is you need to do to improve and get better at trading. And then as you do that, that leads to success, and that leads to passing trader evaluations. Highly encourage you to not blame others. If that's something you do, whether it's you blame the evaluation companies, you blame their rules, you blame other traders. Final point there, remember you, and I underline that on purpose, are trying out for them, the trader evaluation programs. It's not the other way around. It's their world and their rules, and it's up to you to demonstrate you can pass following their rules. Again, not to harp on it, but I see far too many people almost feel entitled. They say, oh, I failed because your rules are too limiting, or your rules don't work with my system, and that's not fair. No, that's the wrong, you are coming at this from the wrong mental approach from the start, and you're probably not going to be successful because you just want to blame other people. You are deciding to try out for their evaluation. It is their rules. They are the ones who are going to be funding you. They want to see if you have what it takes to be funded. So if you keep breaking rules, you don't. So I encourage people to own their own stuff and work on their own trading. So there's my contact info. Basically everything that's on my website, CanadianFuturesTrader.ca, is links down below. Social media, all my stuff's on my contact page. If you're interested in futures trader evaluations, all the programs, highly encourage you to check out my site. I have discounts on them. I a lot of times get exclusive discounts. Do reviews of the different programs. I have a ton of articles about trading and lots of other cool stuff, as well on my YouTube channel. Tons of content, lots of trading videos, reviews, all those fun things. So I encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. But definitely check out my website and poke around there and see if anything you find is of interest. I want to thank you so much for watching. I'm going to hope that at least 80% of the people watching this video all of a sudden have a light bulb go off. They change a few things in their trading, and all of a sudden they're passing trader evaluations left and right. I promise you, trading is a lot of work, but it is very rewarding. And if you put in the effort to kind of fix whatever it is that you personally need to work on, it will pay off in the long run. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.